I'm interested in making work that highlights the animal and its beauty, showing off sometimes mundane things.
I think it's super important to draw focus on what an important part animals play in the world of art.
Something like art is something that people can really engage with and can understand, and it's a really sort of easy way to present information to people, and they will actually want to look at it. I didn't realise quite how toxic plastic is to animals and people. It acts as like a magnet and sucks up toxins out of the sea. So then fish will eat that, and it'll move up the food chain. You're getting more and more of these poisons. I think the actual damage that's being done is probably the thing that I've really taken away from it.
Hello, come on. I think animals and nature are just hugely important. Art has a very powerful community around it, and drawing a lot of different artists on a lot of kind of key themes, key campaigns, can really draw focus to an issue of conservation, for example. So I was approached by the WCA, which is the World Cetacean Alliance, to join a community of artists across Brighton to focus on a campaign they have around ghost gear in the seas, which is fishing nets that are often accidentally or purposefully left in the seas, which then entangle sea creatures, especially things like dolphins, whales, porpoises, etc. In planning that artwork, I was given the story of a whale to focus on, and this was a whale who had been entangled off the coast of America and had suffered 2 or 3 weeks of really quite traumatic entanglement before an entanglement team had been able to take the net off. It was a humpback whale, so a huge creature just struggling with these nets. The artwork that I created was based on a little bit of a journey that I went on myself to explore what ghost gear was. So I took myself to the beach at Saltdean and found all of these bits of netting on the floor, which was quite shocking to me.
We're here today to collect some garbage off the beach, take that home with me, make it into art, and use the art to raise awareness of the plastic pollution problem. Today we found a lot of this, which is ghost gear. It's abandoned fishing net, and every time I come to the beach we find this. I've got loads of it in the studio to make things out of. You can see it's all tangled round underneath the pier as well. And what happens is fishermen, basically, they have their old fishing nets and they just discard them and they throw them into the sea. But because they are designed for catching fish, they just carry right on working, and fish will get caught in them, but also much bigger animals. I'm an ecological artist. I make lots of art to raise awareness of things like plastic pollution and the impact that can have on wildlife and people and the environment. What the WCA did this year, because they've been doing it for a couple of years, different art projects, and this year it was to do with ghost gear, which is abandoned fishing nets. I used some ghost gear to make a whale tail because the whale had been trapped by the tail, and it was just quite simplistic.
In one big corner of the painting, you'll see the ghost gear netting that has been used. They wouldn't stay in place. They were plasticky and nasty and gnarly and difficult to manipulate and difficult to keep control of. And in the process of using the netting and glue, a little fly got caught in the net. Even in the process where I'd extracted it from the sea, there were still creatures being caught in that net, which I thought was quite symbolic. I wanted my artwork not to focus too much on the trauma and more of the release from entanglement. It's hopefully a painting of hope and a painting of awareness that it's an issue.
More ghost netting. That's not plastic, that's the inside of something. So this is all stuff we found in about 10 minutes on a little tiny piece of beach, and almost all of it is single-use plastics. Plenty of places have banned plastic bottles now, and I would like to see that going global because it's so incredibly wasteful. They never go away. Hi, I'm Candy Medusa, and I want to raise awareness of toxins in our seas and toxins in our bodies through the medium of art. I also spend a lot of time wondering when people are going to realise the full extent to which plastic pollution is damaging our environment and our bodies. This is the Sea Dragon, and on her I'm going to join an all-female crew of scientists, artists and environmentalists to investigate the effects of plastic pollution on ecosystems and human health, and then spread this information through art exhibitions and workshops. I found out about it through the Onca Gallery. That's, so interesting because it was combining sort of science and ecology and environmentalism with art as well. I didn't realise until I went quite how toxic plastic is to animals and people. We went to a landfill on St Lucia as well, and it's so beautiful. There's all this gorgeous lush rainforest, and you can see that in the background, all these gorgeous trees, and then just these huge mountains of trash, and then these little white birds are perching in it, and they're really pretty and they're rooting through the garbage. It's just this weird juxtaposition between this amazing, gorgeous nature and what we've done to it. So I'm going to be doing Ecological Art Weekend for the Brighton Fringe Festival. We're going to have a beach clean and collect a load of beach garbage, and then we're going to do some workshops and make some art out of the beach garbage. So I'm going to make a few pieces, and the one that I'm going to start now is going to be a sperm whale sculpture. Recently in the news there's been a lot of sperm whale beachings, and they weren't sure why that was happening, and then when they did autopsies on them they were full of plastic, and these whales had basically starved to death with their stomachs full of plastics. They couldn't fit any food in. And so what I want to do is make a whale out of reclaimed wire. I've got this piece that I fished out of the garbage today, and some guitar strings that a friend of mine dropped off yesterday, which are very good. You can unwrap all of the wire from the guitar strings. And then once I've got the outside of it, I'm going to fill it with bits of plastic from beach cleans. From a distance it's just going to look like this whale sculpture, but when you come up close to it you'll be able to see what it's full of, and so that's going to make a statement about that perhaps we should be using less plastics. Hopefully in a positive way, that they can, go out and change their own lives and just make decisions about, their consumer choices and what they're going to do.
I carve the bodies from balsa wood, so you need to copy exactly what's inside the animal, and then you put your skin onto that. So the assumption is that it just gets stuffed full with things, but you're actually making a hard surface to lay the skin onto. So that's my woodpecker body. I'd wire up the wings, and the wire would run all the way through the wing and come out just below the shoulder here, and then I'd stick the wire through into this part. So the wing itself, which should lie parallel to the body and flat along the back. Even in flight, the wings will be nearly parallel to the body, and it's just this part that will open. The feathers go directly through the skin and the quills stick through the other side, and you get feather tracks that lie only in certain places on the body. So people assume birds are feathery all over, but they've only got them in these lines on their body. And so to do a bird you have to clean the skin and clean all the feather tracks really well. I call myself an ethical taxidermist because I only use things that have died from natural causes or been hit by a car, dragged in by a cat, something like that. I don't use anything that's been killed for any reason. I'm interested in making work that highlights the animal and its beauty, showing people what's available for them to see literally outside of the window, making people realise that it's there. It's a waste almost to let something rot away by the side of the road or continually get driven into and things like that. I'd much rather pick it up, use it to make a beautiful piece of work that people can see and appreciate from inside a gallery or their own home, and then hopefully when they're outside they'll maybe now know that species or just feel a different warmth towards it in nature. I'm interested in teaching people what they can see in their local park, things which they can directly help or change. I have done exhibitions in London, for instance, and there's been different species in there, even something as what I would say usual as a pheasant, and adults have come in and asked me how I've made that animal up. They've never seen a pheasant before, so even something as simple as that is helping someone to understand about something outside of London that they might see if they went into the countryside. Through giving adults a good relationship with taxidermy, seeing that it isn't necessarily about hunting and things like that, it can help them to view taxidermy in a certain way, but also certain animals in a certain way. I've done workshops where I've taught children how to actually make taxidermy. We talked about how you should and shouldn't touch certain animals by the side of the road as well. So there are some things that do carry diseases, and also what to do if you find something. Say they saw something that was injured, maybe rather than being scared of it and seeing it as this kind of dirty thing, maybe they'll be interested to go over and see if they could help it. Taxidermy is a really useful tool to give children a good experience with an animal that maybe is persecuted in the media. So foxes, for instance, there's a lot of news stories about the fox hunting, how they attack people. I have a fox that I've made for Derby Museum, and it's right in the centre of the museum. Children run in, they shout fox, and they can cuddle it and they can touch it. And I don't think that you should touch taxidermy because it decreases the longevity of the piece, but at the same time, the good reaction that these kids are having with this fox that died by the side of the road is such a nice relationship that as they grow up, hopefully they won't feel the same negativity that other generations have about certain animals.
The community artists that were asked to create some artworks for this campaign all put their artworks towards an auction, and mine got sold along with other people's, and mine was also endorsed by David Attenborough and raised lots of money for the WCA campaign. But I think more than that, it raised an awareness that this is an ongoing issue and it needs to be resolved.
I'd say my most enjoyable work is when I work for museums. They're all very interested in teaching and sharing, and I'd say that's probably the best part. I think that if you teach someone young, then they'll hopefully grow into someone that has an interest in all of these different areas.
You know, I think a lot of things that happen, it's easy to look at them and think, well, that's nothing to do with me, that's not my problem. But when you can see this plastic garbage, you know that it is you. There's no denying it. You can't say, no, that's nothing to do with me, because it is, and you know that it is. Hopefully everyone who comes to the exhibition will take that away with them and implement a change.